Good morning once again, my good people of a great nation. Like I said in the promo, we'll be having another discussion segment, and I have with me Professor Joseph Ochogu. We call him Joe. Joseph Ochogu is Associate Professor of Peace and Conflict at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution in Abuja, Nigeria. You are welcome on the show, Joe.
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's great to be in ITV studio this morning.
You're welcome. So, without much ado, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I read political science, and I, of course, schooled in Lagos, schooled in Jos, schooled in Bradford as a Chevening scholar. So I have a master's in peace studies, and then have a PhD from the University of Jos. And of course, I've had the privilege of enjoying several other fellowships, across some parts of the world. Basically, I've been working in the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution for about 20 years. Yeah, wow. But I've left the Institute for several other assignments, perhaps in the Villa as a special assistant in the Office of the Chief of Staff. And then I was in DFID as conflict advisor for 1 year, and I'm back to the Institute where I still undertake research in areas of peace, conflict, security, governance, and development.
Wow, 5.
So yeah. So, but they are all interrelated. They're intertwined. So they are all connected. So, and that is what I do for a living. And I'm paid by the government to do this research. And then once in a while, we'll do a bit of consultancy too for international development partners and some other organizations within the country. Because the point is that at the heart of life is research. At the heart of life is research. At the heart of any form of development is research. So either you're doing social research, or you're doing the core sciences, which is science, technology, innovation. So everything you see, actually, that is good is a product of research.
Yes, everything good is product of research. Now Nigeria is challenged security-wise. And we have these research institutes all over, starting with yours, Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. Why have you not been able to help us resolve this conflict that is almost engulfing Nigeria?
I think the point is that it is important for us to first and foremost understand what research is and what the distinction between social research and the core natural sciences. By human nature is very complex. It means that society is a very complex society.
Sure.
In social sciences, our attempt to try to predict, the probability to try to predict certainty has an error level. It therefore means that you can't have a very perfect, it's not like natural sciences where you say 1 + 1 is 2. In social sciences, 1 + 1 is not necessarily true. And that is why you allow for some error level. But if you do medical sciences, you hardly allow for some level of errors in your distance.
That could be fatal.
Yes, that could be fatal. So that talks about you strive towards perfection. But be that as it is, I think you talked about several research institutions and all that across the country, including our own research institutions. And it's important too to mention that even the military, the police, the SSS, and all the things, they have their own specialized research institutions as well, So, and like I said, research, it's key, and research is at the heart of good life. And what that means is that there must be a connection between research, particularly good research. There must be a connection between research, policy, and action.
So where did you miss it?
No, we didn't miss anything.
If we didn't miss, why is...
No, I will still explain to you.
Yes.
The point is that's why I said there must be a connection. There must be a connection between
research,
policy, and action.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but when there is a disconnect, note too that the functions of most of these research institutions are primarily advisory. So they don't action anything.
Why should they not be able to action?
They only provide some level of advice. There are other research institutions too, like ours too, that move from the level of research to the level of interventions. in local communities and all that. And note that what we do basically is we do research into conflict prevention, management, and resolution. And then we try to intervene in conflict-affected societies in terms of trying to promote non-violent processes. So if you just oppose our own mandate, for example, that of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution and that of the National Defense College, or that of other agencies,
or War College,
or
even
Defense College, it's completely different. Our own primarily is the non-violent management of conflict. But if you look at the complexity of our conflict environment that we have in Nigeria, you know that the kind of conflict that you have, it's largely, majority of them, because already they've become violent. There are violent actors already who are engaging in this combat. It's going to be very difficult, for example, to want to begin to do some level of non-violent conflict resolution. So at times too, you need the forceful management of conflict. And that is why in social sciences they say the state is the monopoly of violence. And why is the state having monopoly of violence? To organize society in such a way that people live according to law and order and peaceful coexistence. And where there is a distortion to that law and order, to that peaceful coexistence, by the use of non-state actors who use violence to cause this obstruction, then of course the law mandates security, defense, and other law enforcement agencies, to carry out their activities in that direction. So what we do basically is promoting community cohesiveness, resilience, and the mutual understanding between different groups, trying to build the interest of different parties within the society for them to agree. It's difficult getting people to agree on certain things. Even within family, you have differences. So it is the business of managing this heterogeneity of Nigeria that oftentimes snowballs into what we have. So at the national level, for example, if you're talking about the kind of crisis we have in the country, for example, and like I tell people with all sincerity, there are majority of these crises actually you don't need to shoot a bullet. All you need to do is more of engagement and constructive engagement with other parties, and then a lot of sincerity of purpose, within the other parties, for you people to have a common ground, to accept certain things and then to move on. In that way, you begin to promote trust and confidence, among the different groups of people, for them to understand themselves better, and then for them to live better and to enjoy life. Because the essence of life is actually to enjoy it. But like I said, there must be, consciously and deliberately, a connection between research and policy and then the action. The reason I'm saying this is that if you look at how we organize our society, for example, on my way to the studio, if you look at certain indicators, you know that it is vulnerable to violence in terms of organization, of the transportation system, of the infrastructure, of access of people, to certain basics that they need. So when you don't deal with issues of development critically, what you are begging for is you are begging for conflict.
Okay, someone said the part of the challenge that your Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution has is that it's placed under Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Is that true? Are you under Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
No, well, I'm not in a position to speak on the position or not of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. That, I think, is a prerogative of the government, to decide.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that assist in any way where you are placed. Because if you are placed under Ministry of Foreign Affairs instead of maybe Ministry of Interior, maybe that could mean you are only interested in external promotion of peace building and peace mission abroad and all of that.
I think that is the understanding for people outside. But the point that we are located under the Foreign Affairs Ministry does not in any way stop us from doing a lot of local interventions.
How much of that have you? When was your when was your institute established?
No, the institute was created in 2000.
2000.
That's in 2000 under the Ministry of Cooperation and Integration in Africa.
Okay.
Note too that primarily when the institute was first created, it was first created for external conflict management. And
That's what I'm saying.
let me just put you through.
Okay.
When Nigeria actually was involved in a lot of
peace mission abroad and all of that,
and all that, but I think the government, in its wisdom, discovered that soon after democracy, there were a lot of ventilations, expressions from different groups that hitherto had been suppressed by military regime and all that. So the internal dimensions, the internal conflict dimension, played well too. So that mandate extended, to conflict resolution, extended into issues around democracy, extended into issues around defense and security, and all that, because you need the whole of this thing to actually build peace and provide an enabling environment for conflict resolution. So in terms of location or nomenclature, I think it really does not matter. It does not matter, because if you look at even some of the budget lines that are provided, even though there are paucity of funds, but some of the budget lines that are provided make enormous provision, for some good level of intervention. I've been to the Northeast severally, in terms of doing advocacies, we've done quite a whole lot of work internally. I've been to MUBI, and we don't work alone, actually, too. We work with partners, local partners, and even international partners like the UNHCR, UNICEF, and some other partners that we do work with, to achieve certain things that we need to do that. And the reason being that peace is not an exclusive thing. Peace is an all-inclusive processes that takes into consideration all stakeholders. It is an all-encompassing phenomenon where you need everybody's hand to be on board, to build.
Okay.
So we work with different partners to do this.
Now, I don't want us to make this program or this segment look like we are auditing IPCR. No.
I'm not here actually in capacity as a spokesperson for
No,
IPCR,
I know that. So let me make that very clear.
Okay.
That it's not all about Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. You are just like, I'm only making you as a reference point for research institute.
Right.
Prof, there have been this saying that we have so many research institutes. We have so many universities of technology. In fact, few ones are just newly announced. But we are not seeing the impact of those research outputs. What is the challenge? What is the problem? Why are we replicating University of Technologies, Research Institute? We have in Oyo State alone, in fact in Ibadan alone, there are almost 10 research institutes funded by federal government, cocoa research, horticultural, this and that. And then you come to Plateau, we have VOM, that's veterinary medicine stuff at VOM. So many of them spread all over. But Nigerians are not feeling the impact of these research institutes.
Okay, great. It's important to note that even the universities too are research centers.
That's true.
They are
That's
research
true.
and
I
academic
agree with you on
centers.
that.
So if we are going at the research, the universities too are research centers, it means that we have a widespread of research institutions, across the country. The point now is that what is the connection between what we call perhaps the gown and the town? So there must be relevance.
So that's the nexus we are here to establish. You have the town, you have the gown. Now, in other climes, the gown is the brain, is the brain box for the town, and many of the innovations, ideas, all these technological breakthroughs are incubated in the gowns. So in Nigeria, how have we? What is the justification for us having all of these plethora of research institutions whose output, whose products are just gathering, dust on the shelves?
I think the point basically is there are researches, and I've mentioned issues around research, policy,
and action. Yes.
Very, very important. And then, of course, there is the need for the role of the private sector, because it's not all a government affair. There is the need for private sector involvement in terms of research and in terms of innovation. in providing problems. I think the major problem basically we have is that, particularly for the technology institutions and all that, is the over-reliance on foreign outputs. Where we want to bring in, all we want to bring is foreign output. So, but I think let me just restrict myself to the issues around security, which is the major things we're talking about. And then you begin to look at maybe economic research like NISA, like the IPCR, like the ISS, and all the different other institutions that are supposed to provide some level of policy advice and all that. I think they do. But the major point will be the level to which that is accepted within the framework of how things are managed. Because one, research is a systematic investigation into a particular phenomenon where you profile solutions. So when you do research and you find some basic recommendations and you profile recommendations to deal with certain things, just add, and note too that we're in a society that is in competition with different groups of people. There are those within our governance arena that rely heavily on anecdotal evidences or anecdotal facts against empirical facts. Those empirical institutions are largely dependent primarily on investigations of facts, and they bring it against the anecdotal. The anecdotal is something you see and you feel that it is real or true. But what are the concrete evidences in terms of the empirical evidences to ensure that these informations you have are the genuine information? Oftentimes that is left at the discretion of those who are making the decisions. And I think that from my experience, over the 6 years, there is a disconnect.
Exactly the point. Exactly the issue of disconnection. Wait. Because of time, we need to manage this very well. And the disconnect. Look at Nigerian Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, your own, ISSI, so many. I can go on and mention quite enough. Then they produce fantastic research output, send it to government, and then nothing, no policy briefs, no executive action on that. So why are we funding these research institutes when we are not interested in their output?
No, it's not that we are not interested. I'll just mention one or two cases where research has been submitted. For example, the institute, when we did some collaboration with UNHCR, we did some studies in Adamawa, I think early period of 2015 or prior to that time. And you'll be surprised to know that part of our research finding was these IDPs and the need for IDPs to vote. I'm sure you'll be surprised to hear today that recommendation came from the institute largely. That because of the large displacements of people, their right to vote, should be guaranteed. And I think INEC actioned that as quickly as they can. There are other things, for example, that research recommendations from research have been able to help. But largely, and I think significantly, as a researcher, I will tell you that there is a disconnect between research and governance in our nation.
But is that the global best practice?
I will tell you how it operates.
No, is that the global best practice?
No, I'll still tell you how it operates in other climes, because I just told you that I had the privilege of being...
you need to summarize that because of our time.
I had the privilege of being a conflict advisor in the UK with UK government. And what they do basically is that before they do anything, they undertake research. Before you take any policy decision or any step, a concrete evidential research with its outputs are presented and even given to other couple of researchers. So there is a strong debate within the research community, and the recommendations are concretely made. And then you find people actioning those recommendations one after another, and then you find a monitoring and evaluation system monitoring that implementation of what to get feedbacks and further review of these things here. I think that is the component that is actually lacking in our system here. So it is that disconnect. So there is a need, for a nexus, a relationship between research and policy and action. Because if you look at David Estien's input-output system, that is what it explains. It is what you put in that comes out and then comes back in here. So if we ensure that we have very good research outputs that informs our governance systems, and then we'll do it and then do monitoring, do evaluation, and then we'll see that it is not correct. We do more research and then do feedback, and then we'll now have a more functional society. Thank
you very much, Professor Joseph Ochogu. Unfortunately, we have to cap it all at that level. But you've made your point quite eloquently and very lucidly about the missing gap between research, policy, and action, and the disconnect alone. Because that's, for me, I'm also a researcher. It's not the global best practice that we are, reflecting in Nigeria. And we can do a lot better in resolving our security challenge. We can't spend millions of dollars or naira doing researches and then the output just gather dust on the shelves. I want to thank you for coming. Hope that any other time we invite you on this show, you will oblige us.
Thank you very much too. And just to mention that even the crisis to have helped the Nigerian military to upgrade setting of their internal manufacturing system, and that was done through research, the diagnosis and all that. So it's an ongoing process. And we'll never give up on this.
It is, but Nigeria needs peace urgently than they need all this Dogon Turenchi of research on this shelf. Thank you very much once again, Prof. Thanks much, and do enjoy the rest of your day. So that's the size of our program, Development Focus with Jude Ojo on ITV today. If you have enjoyed this edition, please stay tuned for another edition next Wednesday. It comes every Wednesday between the hours 7 and 9:30 in the morning. Hope to see you around, and enjoy the rest of your day.